Hello, this is Kathleen McKee of Oleans.com, Machine Embroidery Art.
One of the more difficult concepts for new digitizers to understand is the concept of blocks and stitches. When you're digitizing in PE design, you are always digitizing in blocks. When you import a design that somebody else has digitized on another software, like a DST file or any other file, even if it's in the PES format, if you bring it into your software, is going to be brought in the form of stitches. Now you can convert it to blocks, but it may not always be as precise as when you've digitized it yourself. Let me give you an example. Under our Shapes tool, we're going to do a closed region tool with 4 points, and I'm going to do a manual punch. They both work pretty much the same. Double click. Okay, now when we use our select point tool or edit tool, you're only going to see or be able to edit the points that you laid down or the points that you add later on, but you're still editing blocks of stitches, not individual stitches. The same goes for the closed region tool. You can edit the points, 4 points that you put down, or you can add extra points and edit it that way, but you're still editing blocks of points or blocks of stitches, I should say. But if I wanted to move this line underneath here or whatever, I'm out of luck. I can only move the blocks of stitches. So you notice when I click on an object, the Shapes tab will come up. You see, and when I click outside, it's gone now. So I'm going to click on this manual punch I entered, and now the Shapes tab has come up. And I can convert that manual punch to stitches. And I know that it's in stitches because it has this little fine black dotted line around it. The same with the region or close path. We see the Shapes tab show up, and we're going to convert it to stitches. It has that little black line around it, and it stays around there whether or not you click outside the object or not. But when I choose the select point tool this time and I select the object, looky there, you see every single stitch that the machine or that the software has put in, and you can edit every single one of them too. You can even edit that little line that was underneath, you know, or even if it had a what do you call it, undersew on. So to edit points in the or stitches in the stitches view, you have to do each one individually, or you can select a group of them, right click, got to be on the stitch, and then right click and delete them, or you can select a group and then on your keyboard just push the delete key. The same goes for the manual punch. You can edit each individual stitch, or you can select and right click and delete. Now text is a little bit different, and I'm going to choose this font here because it's nice and big and easy to see, and we'll just type in text, and we're going to make it real big so we can see what's going on here. Now, whenever you use a built-in or true type fonts, it's in a special form. I wouldn't call it blocks, I wouldn't call it stitches or outline. It's kind of just in a form all to its own, a text form, and that enables you to transform your text. You can get it to do different things or not. And you can also select each diamond, and you have the ability to move it, or you can change its individual color, but you can't move it up or down, even though it does read the whole letter as a whole. When you convert it to blocks, I'm going to select it and convert it to blocks now. You notice that it gets this little dotted blue line around it, and that lets us know that this text is grouped. So the first thing we have to do is go to the Home tab and the little group pull down arrow and ungroup it. And that gives you the ability to do more with each individual letter. However, you're still not going to be able to move the whole letter because it breaks it down. You see how it has it broken down into all these different pieces with a running stitch. Well, let's just select that and you can see how it sews out. That's going to be one part, that's going to be another part, that's going to be the third part, that will be another part. And so in order to work with it as a whole, you have to select the whole letter, and then you can move it up or down or whatever you want to do. But the thing I find most useful about keep putting the text in the block mode is that whenever you use true type fonts, now the built-in text, you usually don't have this problem. They're usually digitized pretty well right from the start. But so often when you're using true type fonts, for the most part, they do digitize well, but every once in a while you see it gets a little wonky here. You see how it's wonky there? And I don't really care the way that is. These stitches should be going straight up and down. So when it's in the block form, you will be able to correct these little faults there. I'll select there. And I don't like the way that is. We want to make that, well, whoops. Undo that. But anyway, you get my idea. You can work with this and get your text to sew up more smoothly and get rid of any flaws that might be that might have occurred when it was converted or when it. And the last thing I want you to see when we select the text and go into the text tab is when we convert it to outline. Now this is different. You see, it also groups it up in so we need to go to the Home tab, ungroup it, and then we can deal with each letter individually. But what outline does is it interprets each letter as a like a closed path object. So all the stitches are going to be going in the same direction. And sometimes those stitches are going to be too long, so you might have to select a letter and convert it to a fill stitch. And because I think that most text always looks better when it's in a satin stitch and they're running true to the direction that it's going, like this is way too long, I don't use the best reason to turn the text into stitches, though, convert to stitches, and now we see the little black dotted box around it, is so that we can eliminate jump stitches. And I have a whole lesson on that in my PE Design Next tutorials, lesson 14, called Removing Jumps in Text, so that instead of having your machine stop and trim and going to here and stop and trim and going to the next one, it's going to connect them all at the closest point so that your machine will run more smoothly without having to stop and trim and stop and trim. So I hope this cleared up some questions for you.